Hey, everyone. I am so glad you're back. And I brought back Elle Ebizadeh. And we are here to talk about money today and talk about business and our relationship with how we grew up with money. And we both came from very male dominated backgrounds in business. And I think that we want to have a conversation about that as well. So all the fun things. I really, as I've been having these, I call it money series podcasts, and I've been having people come on and talk about money. The response that I'm getting is like, thank you so much for sharing because I actually have experienced that too. And I just want to say, number one, thank you, Elle, for coming on and being vulnerable and sharing your story because a lot of people, I think, have had some type of experience that's similar to us and we're just not talking about it. And so I think that leaves that, separation between, when you're not really talking about it. I think there's a lot of people in business that talk about their end, right? But all of that messy middle and what we had to go through to get there, I don't think that's as highlighted. So I want to just say, number one, thank you for coming on and sharing your story and
Oh,
talking to me.
thank you so much, Erin. I enjoyed our last episode, and then this one is going to be even more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for asking me to come back. And yes, business, money, it has been a number one thing in my life for a long time. Uh, I'm an entrepreneur, still am, and I love talking about business. And when you gave me this subject, I said, you know what, let's talk about that because, yes, in the past, all the businesses that I started and I sold, they were in the male-dominated industry.
Yeah.
So yes. So any questions? Let
Let's
me
dive in.
know.
Let's just start there because I think, I've got some other questions about how we grew up around money. And I think that's really important.
Mhm.
And I really want to talk about the, being around in the male dominated industry. And let me say this to the listeners. I
Mhm.
love all of the humans. I think that there is a trend right now for some women bashing the patriarchy and the males and all of the things. And I am not on board with that. I think that we have all been conditioned by when I say, male dominated industry, what I mean is the old way of doing business, right? Of like, put your feelings to the side. You've got a job to do. You've got work to do. We don't have time to feel our feelings. And I think men and women and all of, the genders in between, right? Like have been affected by that. So do you want to share about your experience of being in that type of industry and how you've had to what it was like, when you were in it and then how you've been able to transform it?
Yes. So it was, first of all, I want to say it was my choice to
Yes.
be in that space.
Yep.
And I did feel very comfortable. My, to this day, my best friend, who is my cousin, he's a male. So I felt comfortable interacting with men always. And when you go deeper, maybe I can just say it now. It's because of my relationship with my dad. I
Mhm.
used to, he did build apartment buildings,
Mhm.
and I used to like follow him everywhere. He would go every time, like even in the mornings when he would go start his car and, to go to work, I would go sit in the car as a child. So it was, I guess, that connection that I had to my dad made me so comfortable to be in that environment. So yes, my first company was distribution of cell phones, went all over not just US, but even all over the world. And the second one was the recycling company, which was, I started in 2004. I mean, I hardly saw any females in there, but I had to interact. And it was a pleasure to work with all the larger companies. I guess then I was a commercial real estate agent because, and also it's in that space. There's, fewer ladies who work in that industry. So yeah, so what happened that I kind of switched and moved toward being a life coach. It was an eye opening for myself to saw, and I guess to want to feel that balance about uh, like always being in my head and having a goal and not allowing myself to go inside to my heart and look at my feelings and see how am I gonna uh, talk about my feelings. How am I gonna? I tell my clients now, why don't you befriend your feelings? So I didn't know how to befriend my feelings, you know, before becoming a coach, and then I realized that to become who I am, or I guess invite my true self to myself, it's just a balance of both, because you can now I believe that you can have anything you want in life, can balance it where you can, have a business and go from your head and be logical, but at the same time, when you allow yourself, you can go and inside and uh, what am I feeling right now?
Yeah.
So that's how I work with my clients now. And because I could and I did switch from that space to here today. I hope I answered your question.
You did. And I love this because I think Elle and I have a lot of similar background. Like the joke with my mom and my dad was like, Erin used to sit in the front seat of my dad's truck with her pacifier in her mouth. And she would just go around. He owned like Exxon service stations at the time. But you say that like that relationship. And I don't know if I had ever thought of that in specifically that way. I had always looked at it like, well, I wasn't close with my mom, but really it was more so like I was really close with my dad, right? And so having that male relationship, I've always felt very comfortable and at ease around men. Actually, I mean, we talked about this on the previous podcast. I was like that, your one client you were talking about. I was actually the woman that had to work on my relationship with women in order to in business and things of that sort because of my relationship and what I've experienced when I was younger. And so I think that and also you saying like it is a choice, right? Like I think so often the bandwagon right now is like to bash all of the male stuff, and it's like no, it's a choice, right? Like I
Yeah.
wanted to be a financial planner, I wanted to work in my family's construction business, and I also have such compassion for all of the humans because like you were saying, many of us are taught like there's no place or space or time for feelings right now. Like we've got work to
Yes.
do.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so having such compassion for ourselves, each of us, like you're saying, like it wasn't before until you became a coach. It was the same thing. Like once I started, learning about coaching, I mean, we talked about this on the last podcast as well. Like I had to set a timer and like, what am I actually feeling in this
Yeah.
moment? Because I had operated so much in the mind space, right? Making decisions from my mind, analyzing things, just very black and white versus like, no, what do I feel about this? And letting my heart guide me versus very much, yeah, mind-based decisions
Yeah.
and looking at it, from the black and white. So for you, was it really just the aha that once you kind of got into coaching, you're like, oh wow, like I've really swung almost to the other side of the like no feelings, no, kind of you say this on your website, robotic,
Robotic. Yeah.
right?
Robotic. Yeah. It's, what it was for me, the experience was understanding, uh, have that relationship with myself.
Hmm.
So everything, I mean, I say that to my clients, everything starts with a relationship, and the relationship with yourself is the key to having relationships with other people. And doesn't matter if it's in the business world, in a love relationship, in a sibling interact, any kind of relationship, it starts with the relationship that you have with yourself. And a lot of people, including myself in the past, didn't have that relationship with myself. I did not allow myself. I wasn't in a space that, I mean, did talk about it. Was a robot to go to work because that was a mind goal oriented and not that feeling self had, there was no balance in it. And one of the reasons I name my coaching program business, I
Business.
guess.
Yeah.
It's heart to heart coaching because it's like, oh my God, now I understand. Even I coached a couple of people, they wanted to bring in their ideal business partners. And it comes, one of them was interesting. She actually, the testimony is on my website. She found out that the relationship that she had with her sister kind of impacted uh, the the reason why she couldn't bring in that ideal business partner. So it was like amazing that it has something to do with the heart. It has something to do with the relationships in the past, in your childhood, and how it kind of goes together, and you be understand that it's a layer and layer and layer of what has happened in the past and what we kind of what has been our assumptions about those interactions.
I'm like, was her name Erin? I'm joking because that literally is my story. Like
Oh,
once
really?
Oh, totally. I mean, me
Yeah.
and my sister used to have arguments all the time. And growing up, I wasn't close with my mom, and I'm very close to her now because I've done a lot of work on myself. And like you say, like we think it's in the beginning of our, I don't even want to call it work, but like the introspection that we have with ourselves, right? We think it's everyone else, but really it always comes back to what is your relationship with yourself? And the more that I became more compassionate with myself, the more I became with everyone else, the more that I started loving myself, that I was, found grace and, yeah, such compassion. I saw that and was able to give that to everyone else because I did it for myself first. And so I think for me, what I had to learn was like, and I think this is also just me growing up, and we're not taught this, right? Like we were raised probably by a generation that was like, you work hard, you don't have time for feelings, like we've got stuff to do.
Yes.
And, what I had to realize is giving myself love and compassion. I think a lot of us are afraid, like, oh, we're going to let ourselves off the hook. Like if we're kind to ourselves, then we're not going to hold ourselves accountable. It's like you can hold yourself accountable and you can give yourself a lot of love and compassion as you are, going through something. And there is no, it's not like beating yourself up is bad and giving yourself compassion is good. It's just like it feels really nice to be loving and to be kind and to be graceful towards yourself. Um, and that just oozes out of you, right? Into e- everybody else around you. So, in terms of money, if you're open to sharing,
Mhm.
what were you taught about money growing up? And how have you been able to transform that now?
I guess the number one was my own assumption about my, I guess, the conversations that I would hear from my parents or older people in my life, that whoever has more money, then they're not good people. They're not, you cannot interact with them. They're not, they're in different space. And it kind of got so, I have worked on that, and it came to a space of understanding that has nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
And it has everything to do with me and how, as you said, my relationship with myself, and how the boundaries basically that we put together with different people in our life, in business world, in relationship, in family, any kind of interaction. It's all about knowing self and those boundaries that you put.
Yeah.
Um, so to answer the question, yes, it was in that space. One thing I want to say, because you talked about it a few minutes ago, I got asked to talk in a summit, and it's all about how the moms can make money. And my subject is, it's coming up next week or something. It's my subject is going to be how self love and self care is connected to abundance financial.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting that now when really have uh, really looked inside and understood where I am and where I want to be, I can connect all this together because it's that relationship that I put together, or I guess I have with myself, that I can see that. Um, so
Oh, it gives me full
that's
body
where I
chills.
am.
It gives me full body chills because I think a lot of times I just think money is just a reflection of us, right? Like
Yeah,
when we say we don't have enough, when we say it's not, we find fault with it. When we say it's all a thing, it's like it's a portal into how we view ourselves. And I always say it and it sometimes makes me cry. It's like poor money, like all that it has ever wanted to do is to be in service to us, to have fun, to experience joy. Like that's what we created it for. And obviously from the value exchange, instead of bartering. But like money is just this tool that we get to use, and we have built so many stories and belief systems around it. And once
mhm.
you really start peeling that onion back, you really get to see like, oh, how do I feel like that I'm not enough? How do I feel like I'm not, necessarily a kind person at times, or all of those stories that we hold around money.
Yeah. I mean, I look at money as an energy,
Yeah, for sure.
and uh, and if you look at it that way, then it's kind of a totally different ballgame. There is a book, I forgot the author, but it's called "I Love Money and Money Loves Me," something
Mm,
like that.
I
It's
have.
amazing.
Yes,
You
keep
have
going.
it?
Sorry. Yeah, I'll go ahead and tell it, and then I'll tell
Yes. So this she talks about how I mean, the book is written that as the money is talking, and it's
Yes.
so amazing, and it has that uh, loving feeling when the money talks in that book. And it's amazing how your energy and concept of money can shift by reading the book. That just wanted to bring
Yeah,
it up.
it's called Love Money, Money Loves You by Sarah McCrum.
Yes, yes, yes.
Um, I think the last time we did the podcast, I think you and I talked offline and you had mentioned it because I had said, I've read so many money books and things of that sort. And literally like it is yeah, it's just like money's talking to you. Like if you were to say, what would money say about me and how I treat it? You talk about energy, because I think we throw that term around a lot, but I don't think a lot of us actually know, like, what does that mean? Like a man was asking me the other day, he's like, what do you mean money is energy? And I just said, like, think about when because I call it like the 3D money and the 5D money, right? Like 3D money is like, okay, you see it in your bank account, even though it's not physically there, but like those are the things, or like what you need to do, how you need to invest it, right? But the 5D money, like
Mm,
energy of it, how you feel about it, like when you wake
yeah,
up and you feel that tension in your chest, that is that energy that you are feeling with money, right? And I think a lot of us would probably say, if money were to talk, it was like, you don't treat me very kindly, like you want me to be there for you, but then you talk poorly about me, or, you want me to be there for you, but you ignore me half of the month, or, whatever it would say that we do to it. And I try to relate it to, like, if it was your lover, if it was your partner, would you be treating money, like if you were constantly dogging on your partner, being like, you're terrible, you're evil, you aren't enough, like how long does our partner stay around for? Why would our
yeah,
partner want
yeah.
to stay around,
I think at the end of the day, it comes from understanding that you're worthy to have that abundance.
100%. Yes.
uh, that's all there is to it. If
Yep.
you're talking negative about money and the energy that comes with it, that means that you think that you're worth having that money.
Yeah. I think I always say it boils down to three things: our worthiness, our deservedness, and our lovability, right? Like everything that we ever get coached on comes back Those three things, right? Like, obviously, we need to peel the onion back and to work through that stuff, but, like, that is at its core, right? Like, that's what we're doing. We are seeing that little child that was told, or that we picked up those, phrases from, or a parent did something and we automatically had this story that we built in, that we weren't lovable, we weren't worthy, and we weren't deserving, right? And I
Yeah,
think that it infuses every area of our life. And I think that it's interesting because when you really start asking yourself questions about money, like how much money do you think you deserve? There's a number that will come to your mind right now, And if you take that one step further of like, and why do you think that? A lot of times, what I have found is it comes to like, well, you haven't earned it, or you haven't worked hard enough, or, something of that sort, versus like it just gets to come because we're having
yeah.
fun, we're having fun and we're existing.
One thing I really like to share this, and I'm just recently getting another certification.
Yeah.
It's about laser coaching,
Yes.
and my coach, Regan Hillier, and she talks about how to expand to receive more, and it's so interesting that when I like go deeper and expanding to receive, it's that energy that you feel inside of yourself.
Yeah.
And I mean, even by just like opening your arms and so that you can expand, so you can receive. I mean, I've been doing that when I started a conversation with my clients on Zoom. Prior to that, I sit and I just meditate for 2 minutes and I expand so I can hold my clients throughout the session. And it works all the time because that's the intention that I start the session. So imagine if we start that expansion within ourselves to receive and attract more money, that energy of money to our life.
Yeah.
And it all comes from self love, self care, and knowing that you're worth to
Yeah.
have that expansion to receive more. It's I mean, saying it, maybe it's a little bit easy, but just practicing it on a daily basis. So you're conscious about expanding yourself to receive more. That takes time and it takes some commitment to
And
yourself.
practice, right?
Practice.
I think
Yeah.
I'm so glad go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, practice and commitment and be able to look in the mirror. I mean, saying, I love you, I'll take care of you, and
Mm,
you're worthy to have anything that you want.
yeah.
I mean, maybe you can put the amount of money that you're looking for to have within the next 3 months or 6 months or a year in your income. Yeah, why not? Just say it. So you can have that when you look into your eyes, then that energy goes inside of your body, then you'll be able to expand yourself to receive it.
I love that you said receiving, because I think that that is another thing that most people don't talk about. It's like how often we want things. We say we want things, and we can go down the law of vibration and attraction, um, rabbit hole. But like, what are we actually out of vibration to receive, right? Like, how many times has someone said, "Oh, I'll pay," and you're like, "No, no, no!" Like you're fighting over the bill versus just accepting and receiving and being like, "Thank you so much." And so that receiving muscle, like I always say, we need to increase our receiving muscle because most of us, it's pretty weak. We aren't practicing receiving in all areas. And I want to say, in regards to talking to yourself lovingly and looking at yourself in the mirror and like, asking for the amount of money that you want to have, for some of us, I think we cannot go from where we are to just that place, right? Like you already said. And so starting with that, like, I'm in the process of believing, that I am lovable, or I am in the process of like using some I say bridge thoughts or bridge terminology to bridge that gap, because I know when I was beginning this process, me saying like I love you, it was like my body was like rejection of
Yeah.
it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Yeah, there's, I mean, two things comes up. is limiting beliefs
Hmm.
and then self-sabotage. I
Yeah.
mean, I can give you an example of total self-sabotage. Imagine you wanted to lose 20 pounds or 30 pounds, whatever. And you have been on this diet, exercising, and you lost 20, and you have another 10 or 15 more to lose. But then because of going to this event, or there is a reason that you want, or some health issues that you need to, and comes New Year's and Christmas, and you say, you know what, for the 10 days I'm not gonna do that. And then have seen, and I've had clients that they, in that 10 days, they eat and they don't exercise like double of what they consume, that normal. And that's a self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Why not? Yes, you 10 days, you give yourself a break, but then that break can be moderate. Uh, so at least you don't gain back that 20 pounds or 15 pounds. You gain back 5, and then you can start again the new year. But it's that limiting belief about us, who we are, what we can do and cannot do, that makes us to do that self-sabotage and sabotage those goals or those steps that we need to get to that goal.
Yeah, it's like I wrote down financial thermometer, but that thermometer is in all areas of our life, right? Like if you're someone who doesn't believe that you're worthy of having, a spouse that treats you really well, then when you do have one, right, or you're in a relationship, and then you're going to start picking fights, right? And so it's just like
Yeah,
being on to
yeah,
it's being on to yourself about like, where is my thermometer? And I think, tell me what your thoughts are on this, Elle, is what I have used for myself and clients is like pushing ourselves. And when I say pushing, not a forcing energy, but like, what are the things that take us a little bit outside our comfort zone, but not to the place where it shuts our nervous system down, so that we can then expand that, window of tolerance, or that for our nervous system, that we can increase the capacity. That's what I'm trying to say.
yeah. So it is the patterns.
Yeah.
Basically, looking at the patterns, and it's most of the time, 99%, those patterns starts at childhood.
Yeah.
And those are the limiting beliefs that you think, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm always alone, lonely, all that stuff. But what we can do is sometimes it's kind of peeling those onions. It's kind of harder to do it on your own. Uh, Maybe you need a coach. Maybe you need a partner that you can talk to. So those goals, that's the suggestion that you can have and say, okay, in 3 months, I want to do this and this and that. But then the accountability, or the coach that you hire, or whoever, that Monday morning comes, and that week, what am I going to do this week? What's my goal? Yes, it's the 3 months thing. But then what is the step for today, this week, to get to that? And be accountable for your steps and who you are and where you want to be.
Yeah.
Uh, and I know that we go up and down. It's okay.
Mhm.
It's just that befriending those emotions again.
Yes. Uh, Couple of things. One is really being onto yourself. Like, I do agree with you, like having a coach, a mentor, like for when you're just getting started, because we're getting something out of the belief, right? Like it is serving us. And
Yes,
we
for
have
sure.
to really get, like, I was doing this last night about something, and like actually writing it down, like asking yourself, like spending some time quietly, like asking yourself, like, what am I getting out of this belief, right? It could be something as simple as like, I don't have to feel XYZ, or, I'm not going to upset, you're just going to have to kind of dig there and figure it out. And what I will say is the getting started, same thing. I was thinking about this last night. I was like, why is it when I was thinking about me and my partner, and he, he's kind of now at this realization of like, okay, I want to make some changes. And I'm like, why is it a little bit more difficult for him right now than it is for me? Because when I want to do something, I'm just like, okay, we're doing it. I'm like, oh, because getting started is the hardest part. Like, if you think about energy and inertia, going from 0 to 1 is
Mhm.
everything, right? Like
Yeah.
once you like you think about a plane or a train, like once it gets moving, it's on the track. It's in the air, right? That but where it uses its most of its fuel is going from stopping to taking off in the air, right? And
Yeah.
so I want to, for the listeners, have here we go back to compassion. Have some compassion and grace because when you are used to being a certain way and now you've decided to make a change, like that is, I think, where like the most resistance, right, comes up because of where we are. And you said something about I wrote down fantasize. I think a lot of us, at least I used to fantasize about the bigger goals and I think it gave me that dopamine hit versus, like you said, the Monday morning. Why don't you just think about like Monday, what am I going to do? Okay. And now Tuesday, what am I going to do? Because that is in those little tiny
Awesome.
increments. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I mean, to this day, I have to like Monday, what's
Mm.
my goal for the, I mean, I
Yes.
do that
Yeah.
on a weekly
Break it down.
basis. Yeah. I have to break it down to get to that space.
Yeah.
Yes. Um, there was one thing I wanted to say, but I forgot, but that's okay. It'll
Yeah.
come back.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think like I used to, like my goals for the year versus like you're saying, you have your goals or you have your heart's desires. And then like you're saying, okay, break it down into quarters, break it down into months, break it down into weeks, break it down into days, right? Like, and I always ask myself, like who is the person, if you already had the thing or whatever it is, who is the person that is acting from that space? What are you feeling? What are you thinking about? What are you doing to get there? And like, and all of us, right? You're gonna fall off, right? But like
Yeah.
how quickly you get back, like that's what we're trying to shorten, right? We're trying to
Yeah.
shorten the time of where we fall off to get back on.
Yeah. I mean, be kind to yourself because
Totally.
if it's takes you, I had clients that it took them to go to that pattern. Maybe it will take them in the past, it take them like a month that they realize it, or 6 months. But then as they worked and became more aware, then it was in an hour they could change that perspective
Yep.
and that energy and just go on. So be kind to yourself, be really truthful, honest to yourself. It's okay if this is a task I wanted to do on Monday, but I don't want to do it, or I don't feel like doing it. I want to go for a walk. I mean, anything that comes up, maybe that's the time for you to go for a walk.
Yeah.
And other stuff will come to you. Maybe your body, your mind, your heart is telling you that you need some time, and then go back to it and ask yourself.
And I think also like curiosity for me has been an amazing emotion versus such judgment, like really getting into like, okay, I didn't do what I said I was going to do. I'm not saying it's okay, like, hey, you can do that forever, but also like, okay, if your child were to mess up, like, are you going to read them the riot act every single time? Or are you going to be like, okay, I understand, honey, right? Like, okay, we're going to just try again. And so having that curiosity of like, that allows, I think, so much more information to come to you, right? Versus being so judgmental and so hard on yourself.
Yeah, kindness goes a long way.
Yeah, big time. Self-compassion. It's like, here's what I say, because I think sometimes some of us are like, what? I don't want to be self-compassionate or loving. And it's like, it's not that there's good or a bad way, right? It feels really good in your body when
Mm.
you're really loving and when you're having a hard time to be like, Aaron, hand on heart, right? Like heart to heart, right? Like hand on heart, like
Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay that you did that and we'll get back on track. It's not a problem.
I mean, let's question this. If you're not loving and really compassionate to yourself, how can you expect other people to be loving towards you?
Yeah.
So this quote is, I'm here to love and be loved.
Yeah.
So yes, you can love yourself first, love others. I mean, I had a mother, working with a mother, and then something came up and I said, "So can I share with you a story?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Okay. So when you go traveling and first thing you sit in the, in the plane, what the steward is in front of you kind of teaches you, tells you what to do. When there is any kind of emergency, to put that oxygen mask on yourself and then put it and help the other person next to you, even if it's a kid, a child, put that oxygen mask on yourself."
Yeah. Yeah. I always say nobody finishes the finish line for whoever struggled the most. Like that's when nobody gets I struggled the most. I was the most mean to myself award, you know? And so it's not a competition. So like you say, you know, take care of you first and then we get to show up for everyone else, the people we love and the people we support. And so yeah. Do you have anything else that you want to add to that maybe I didn't cover or that you want to share?
I think we've covered a lot.
Okay.
Uh, I mean, your listener can email us, make comments, and then be happy to answer any questions that they have.
You had mentioned, did you want to include you
Oh,
had
yeah, I would like to give your listeners a gift, a self-discovery journal. So this will be something few pages. So maybe if we take 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, and like sit down, and it's all aspect of your life in the anything about your relationships, about aspiration, about work, anything that you can just really sit down and think about it and put down in your journal. And then maybe you can look at it in 6 months or end of the year and see where you started and where you have been.
That's so fun to do. That's really fun to do is to write down things and then it's like, "Ooh, it's even better than I imagined it to be." So, well, I'll
Yes.
include all of the information for Elle in the show notes. And as always, thank you again, Elle. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Okay. Until next time.